Yo guys, what's up? Jonas here, and in today's video we're gonna go over how much will the PS5 cost. And in this video I'm just gonna state at the beginning that when I'm referring to the price of the PS4, I'm referring to the price in the manufacturing country, or for example most generally in the United States. So for example, if I say the PS5 will cost $500, I mean it will cost $500 in the US, meaning that in other countries the price could become more expensive. Like for example, in my country, the day of the release, if theoretically the price is $500, it will be easily sold for at least $600. But without further ado, let's start with the video. Now I'm gonna start off with something. I'm gonna go ahead and consult an article with you reviewing on the possibility and the potential of the price of the PS5. The article goes as following. What makes it more so is the fact that every 6 years or so, a new lineup of consoles releases, bringing forth another wave of items for gamers to purchase. With the heralding of a new console, the internet immediately goes into a frenzy speculating about prices. The PlayStation 4 has already let that particular cat out of the bag, and $400 is less than what people expected. So what about the PlayStation 5? What can we expect the PS5 price to be? And should we start saving up for it now? There are certainly a number of factors to consider when asking a question like this. We should start by looking at current predictions and the actions of competitors like Microsoft, and we'll also need to look at the history of PlayStation's pricing, do some math, and see what inflation rates will have to say on the matter. Without knowing the exact hardware of the PlayStation 5, we can only speculate and speculate. We shall. So let's begin. So in this introductory paragraph, it basically announces the different sections that are going to be reviewed and that I'm going to review in order, but briefly. I'm not going to read the entire article and talk about it. I'm just going to read a few parts of it, the important ones stating the price on different ranges. So the first thing that says, the first paragraph starts with Michael's pastor, and it says that the analyst Michael Pastor's predictions, they are both relevant and interesting. He's not always right, but he comes pretty close more than often than not. So the first argument for the price or evidence is going to be a prediction. And the latest news is a comment that he did to Gaming Bolt in June 2019, which is last month, where he laid down some interesting predictions for Project Scarlet and PS5's price point. He said the following: the specs suggests $500 or so, but my bias is that Microsoft will announce $399 and Sony will follow suit. So this is another important point that we have to go over, which also puts the competitor of PlayStation, Xbox, into the formula, and where if Microsoft is going to release a console for 400, Sony will have I'm not gonna say it's gonna have a difficulty to sell their console for 500, but there's going to be a new price range competition, and a lot of time people choose the cheapest option if they're getting like almost an equivalent quality, so they're gonna opt for the cheaper version of a console, and in this case it might be the Xbox. But anyway, uh, the article goes ahead and said that the guy that wrote the article says, I would love to see 399, but I find it hard to believe it, that the new systems will go for that low, especially in the previous video that I uploaded and that I linked in the description down below. I talked about the improvements that will be made to GPU, CPU performance and everything, and I doubt that if PS4 was released for 400, the PS5 will be released for 500 as well. But with everything evolving and the prices getting cheaper for technology that is already very common, we cannot really predict it. But anyway, the specs of $399 would be a substantial loss, even in Microsoft's case. So the second chapter is Sony's Mark Cerny hints at the PS5 price. Unless you're living under a rock or you're wrapping a 24-hour marathon of Apex Legends, then you've probably heard about Mark Cerny's PS5 reveal. In this exclusive interview with Wired Magazine, the lead architect of the new system at Sony dropped a ton of info about the upcoming console from Sony, but what he failed to mention anything about the price. Or did he? Now, there's a tweet about Peter Rubin himself. He said, There's always been a general range of launch pricing. Will the next console hew to that range? I believe that we will be able to release it as an SRP, suggested retail price, that will be appealing to gamers in light of its advanced feature set. He then quoted his tweet and said, "So, this didn't make it into my PlayStation story, but given how much people are speculating about the Sony console's price, given the SSD chip combo, though I should probably give a tiny little bit of interview transcript on it. So it sounds like it will be more than the PS4, but also with a reasonable range. To me, this further enhances our $499 price point, as Microsoft made similar claims about the Xbox One's X price prior to its launch. Now, how much is too much? In the next paragraph, they're talking about how much is too much, and they said that companies like Sony need to make money, but there's also a maximum amount that people are willing to spend on a game console, which is actually quite obvious. So, in this section, it's pretty stating pretty obviously that people are not willing to spend $1,000 to buy a new console, and they'd rather pay $500, or if they can, even less than $500 on the new console that they are willing to buy. The paragraph says companies like Sony needs to make money, but there's also a maximum amount that people are willing to spend on a game console. It's a careful balance, but if we turn to episode 82 of the Pastor Factor, which you can watch below, Michael Pastor explained that Sony and Microsoft don't make much money at all on console sales. The real profit comes from software sales. With a small, Sony takes a percentage of the sales for every game you buy on the PS4, PS4 Pro. This consistent revenue stream is where they make money. For them, it makes more sense to lose a little on a console and reap the rewards for a larger player base. This is also why iterative consoles like PS4 Pro and Xbox One X make sense from a business standpoint. As Pastor explains in the video, these consoles encourage people to trade their old system at stores like GameStop. So in this paragraph, they're going over a pretty obvious fact that the companies are smart, they're not dumb, even if they try to reduce, I can say reduce the profits on consoles, but they know that if they reduce the price, they'll be able to sell more of it, and then they'll be able to sell more games in the future, and they already take revenue from the games. So it's a win-win situation in both cases. And we both know that a company like Sony is not stupid to lose money on consoles or any other next-gen products they are going to release. So this is for this paragraph, and then he said, I don't think next gen consoles will be $500. The PS3 launched at 600 and it flopped. The Xbox One launched at 500 and it didn't work. They had to drop the Kinect and bring it to under 400 before it sold. So the next paragraph is stating, gazing into the crystal money ball, the price of the PlayStation 5. So the prediction put for the PS5 price is $500 or $499, and as I said, it should be the price in the US and it might vary and become more expensive in other regions, especially if you take into consideration taxes and shipping and everything else. So the price of the PlayStation 5 depends primarily on two major factors: the state of the economy and the availability of the hardware. So our first major factor is the economy and rate of inflation between now and the system's release in roughly 2 or 3 years. So the expected release date is not before 2 to 3 years. And in this paragraph, they're basically talking about the prices, how they were released, and how the price inflation happened, and how things like the console, when they was first released, cost very much, cost a lot of money, and nowadays, even if it's advanced hardware, there's difference in price ranges to everything from where they used to be like 10 to 15 years ago. So this kind of explains what is happening. It says like why it is low compared to the launch price. It could position the PS5 to sell for 500 as the newest console. By making it twice the price of the current system, it would be a pricing model that Sony's competitors have used before, comparing to Xbox. The Xbox One S sells for a standard price of $250 in 2017, while the Xbox X sells for $500. This pricing model makes sense from a consumer standpoint, as it clearly shows from a pricing standpoint which system is the older one and which one is the new one. So by releasing a product that is double the price of the current system, Sony effectively makes the PS4 Pro like a steal, while also introducing the new system at a competitive price point because it's $100 more than the PS4 Pro was when it was first released. So in this paragraph, they're comparing to the Xbox, to the PS4 Pro, to the PS4 regular version. I'm sorry if I confused you a bit, but here's a chart that will make everything clear. So the PS1 on 3rd of December 1994 was released for $300. The PS2 $300 in March 2000. PS3 was released for $600 on the November of 2006. The PS4, however, sold on for $400 on November 2013, and the PS4 Pro sold for $400 on November 2016. So the PS5 range is expected to be anywhere between 400 and 500, especially that we're talking about a very high performing console. And the history repeats itself in this paragraph. Like there's still two paragraphs, but I'm just gonna mention them very fast because the video is already at a 10 minutes rate, so it's already like long enough, and I can go for like 15 minutes, but I'm not going to do that. So when the original PlayStation launched in 1995, it was priced at $300. Back then, you have to save an allowance to be able to get it because $300 in 1994 is not $300 in 2019 or 2021 when the PS5 will be released. So there's actually this big of a difference on why, like the following chapters of this article explain why expectations could not be based primarily um, on price releases of earlier versions of the console, mainly due to everything related to price inflations and everything concerning the fact that money nowadays is not money 20 years ago, or even 30 years ago in this case, like 1994, 2022, 21, approaching 2024. There's like a 30 years gap range between those two consoles, and $300 now, it's, I'm not gonna say nothing, but is nothing compared to what it used to be in 1994. So this is why comparing to previous versions of the PlayStation console could not give a very clear hint, but definitely helps. So yeah, this has been it. I'm gonna end with one thing that they said in this article that clearly explained the point that I just developed, and it says that the PlayStation 3 may have seemed expensive when it launched at $600 in 2006, and it was, but it's not the most expensive mainstream gaming console. That honor goes to Atari 2600. Launched in the September of 1977, the Atari 2600 costs $200. So $200 back then, if you take into account 260 or 258.9% inflation rate between 1977 and 2013, for example, the Atari would have cost the equivalent of $771 today. So this clearly explains my point, where the PS1, when it was released in 1994, the $300 of the PS1 could easily have been equivalent to the $500 now. But right now, there's also the fact that the technology is very common, very developed, uh, and present in every country. So there's also this factor that makes hardware and software cheaper nowadays. So this is all I had to say for this video. I made it to the 15 minutes almost, but that's everything I have to say about the price. So yeah, $500 expected, a bit less, a bit more. It still has to be confirmed. And again, in the US and any other countries that produce the PlayStation or distribute it to other countries. So this has been it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.